Minister Amit Shah slams Congress on emergency, says on this day 45 years ago, one family's greed for power led to the imposition of the emergency. Interests of one family prevailed over party interests and national interests. This sorry state of affairs thrives in today's Congress too. Working mechanism for consultation and coordination on India-China border affairs holds 15th meeting. Emphasis by both sides on strictly respecting and observing the LAC. Agreed to maintain communication at diplomatic and military levels to resolve existing situation peacefully. One terrorist killed in ongoing encounter at Har Shiva area of Sopore in North Kashmir. 2 to 3 terrorists believed to be still trapped. Major setback for Pakistan. Global terror financing watchdog FATF decides to keep Pakistan in the grey list as it fails to check flow of money to terror groups. US State Department report indicts Pakistan on support terrorism. Says Islamabad continues to serve as safe haven for terror groups targeting India and Afghanistan. India's recovery rate improves to over 57% with 2,71,000 recoveries. Active cases cross 1,86,000 with 14,894 fatalities. Global corona cases rise over 94 lakh with over 4,82,000 deaths world over. US notices second largest rise in new cases since crisis began. California sees 69% rise in 2 days. Hello and welcome to this edition of the news. I'm Rukma. In our top story, Union Home Minister Amit Shah hit out at the Congress for imposing emergency across India 45 years ago. In a series of tweets, Amit Shah said on this day 45 years ago, one family's greed for power led to the imposition of the emergency. Overnight, the nation was turned into a prison. The press, courts, free speech, all were trampled over. Atrocities were committed on the poor and downtrodden. He added that due to efforts of lakhs of people, the emergency was lifted, democracy was restored in India, but it remained absent in the Congress. The interests of one family prevailed over party interests and national interests. This sorry state of affairs thrives in today's Congress too. The minister highlighted that during the recent CWC meet, senior members and younger members raised a few issues, but they were shouted down. A party spokesperson was unceremoniously sacked. The sad truth is, leaders are feeling suffocated in Congress. Amit Shah stressed that as one of India's opposition parties, the Congress needs to ask itself, why does the emergency mindset remain? Why are leaders who don't belong to one dynasty unable to speak up? Why are leaders getting frustrated in the Congress? Else, their disconnect with people will keep widening. The 15th meeting of the Working Mechanism for Consultation and Coordination on India-China Border Affairs was held through video conference on 24th June. The Indian delegation was led by Joint Secretary East Asia, while Director General of the Department of Boundary and Oceanic Affairs of the Chinese MFA led the Chinese delegation. The two sides discussed in detail the developments in the India-China border areas, in particular the situation in eastern Ladakh. The Indian side conveyed its concerns on the recent developments in eastern Ladakh, including on the violent face-off in the Galwan Valley area on the 15th of June that had resulted in casualties. In this regard, it was emphasized that both sides should strictly respect and observe the line of actual control. The two sides recalled the conversation last week between External Affairs Minister and the Chinese State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi and reaffirmed that both sides should sincerely implement the understanding on disengagement and de-escalation reached by the senior commanders on the 6th of June. The two delegations agreed that implementation of this understanding expeditiously in accordance with The bilateral agreements and protocols would help ensure peace and tranquility in border areas and the development of broader relationship between the two countries.
Transforming India and making our country self-reliant and technologically advanced nation. Space sector, wherein India is among a handful of countries with advanced space technology, can play a significant role in boosting the industrial base of the country. Government has decided to implement reform measures to leverage the achievements of ISRO through opening up the space sector for private enterprises. As part of longer socio-economic reforms, space sector reforms will also improve access to space-based services for the development of our country. These far-reaching reforms will put India in the league of very few countries with an efficient promotional and authorization mechanism for private sector space activities. With Prime Minister's vision and guidance, we will make all efforts so that India transits into new space era wherein our innovative startups and our industries are enabled to play a significant role in the space sector. We believe that private sector can play a larger role than being just supplier of parts and components. Department of Space will promote private sector space activities to enable it to provide end-to-end space services, including building and launching of rockets and satellites, as well as providing space-based services on commercial basis. Till now, ISRO only has been carrying out this research and development as well as operational activities in the area of launch vehicle, satellite, launching as well as developing satellite applications. If the space sector is opened up, the potential of the entire country can be utilized to scale up the benefits from space technology. This will not only result in an accelerated growth of this sector, but will enable Indian industry to be an important player in the global space economy. With this, there is an opportunity for large-scale employment in the technology sector and India becoming a global technology powerhouse. For this purpose, Government of India has approved a set of reforms for unlocking India's potential in space sector. The first and more important major reform is enabling private sector to carry out the end-to-end space activities. By private sector, what we mean is in the industries, big or small, startups, academia, etc. That means all non-governmental entities. They will be enabled to carry out all the space activities, namely building of rockets and satellite, providing launch services, own satellites, and provide space-based services on a commercial basis. In addition, private industries will be offered opportunities to undertake research and development activities also. They can also be part of the science and interplanetary missions of ISRO. This is planned to be done through announcement of opportunities. We have already announced opportunities in human spaceflight program and are eagerly waiting for the response. Okay, now come to the point. How to enable these reforms to happen? First and foremost, we need to have a mechanism to allow the private players to carry out space activities, considering it involves safety, security, and quality aspects. Secondly, we also need a mechanism to ensure that the private players experience ease of doing space business at low cost. At present, there is no mechanism in the Department of Space to undertake these kinds of activities. Therefore, government has approved establishment of an autonomous nodal agency called Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center, that is INSPACE, under Department of Space as a separate vertical for taking independent decisions with respect to permitting and regulating the activities of private companies in space sector. This is going to be a major system and reform in Department of Space. The INSPACE will have its own directorates for technical, legal, safety and security, activity promotion, as well as for monitoring purposes, so that they can take independent decisions. Thus, the center will have a board. The board of INSPACE will have representation from industry, academia and Government of India. INSPACE will act as a national nodal agency for handholding and promoting private sector in space endeavors, and for this ISRO will share its technical expertise as well as facilities. INSPACE will also permit private companies to build facilities within Department of Space premises as per the need and feasibility. Private companies can directly apply to INSPACE. INSPACE will independently evaluate and process the application. Once INSPACE gives its decision, it will be binding on all stakeholders, either private people or the ISRO. The INSPACE mechanism may take about 3 to 6 months to become operational. However, private companies need not wait for the system to be formalized. They can start applying through Department of Space in the interim. We will process the requirements and do the needful even now itself. In fact, already private companies approached us for the use of space ISRO's facilities, and we are processing the request very fast track mode. There is also requirement for the policies. Definitely, to make this system to function effectively, definitely we need policies to be built, and we need a new navigation policy. At the same time, we are having SATCOM policy, remote sensing policy existing, but they need suitable modifications on that SATCOM policy and remote sensing policy for the purpose of INSPACE to perform its duty in an effective manner. The new mechanism will provide a fair and equitable space for private enterprises. This is all the first reform. There is a major reform. In short, that mechanism we are going to establish is for allowing private players to carry out the activities in space sector. The next reform, what we are talking is that the role of New Space India Limited, that is NSIL, is recalibrated to transform the approach of supply-driven model to demand-driven model for space-based services. NSIL will be empowered to take over the operational launch vehicles, satellite, as well as commercial applications activities, and will execute them through industry consortiums. NSIL will also undertake technology transfer activities. Now, coming back to ISRO, its activities are not going to be reduced. ISRO will continue to carry out space activities, including advanced research and development, interplanetary missions, human space flight, and capacity building activities. In addition, ISRO will also wholeheartedly support private sector as per in-space decisions. To discuss and explain these aspects about the reforms, functions and strategies, we are planning to conduct an industry promotion meet within a fortnight, wherein we will share more details about the mechanism and the application requirements. With this, I believe very strongly that India will transit into a new space era, wherein many startups and Indian industries are expected to play a significant role. We are very excited with the prospects of these reforms will bring, and are confident that our innovative youth will come forward to avail all the opportunities arising from these reforms. Several startups have already come forward, and we are assured that India will emerge as a major hub for global space economy. I invite wholeheartedly the private players to come forward and carry out the space activities and make India a global technology powerhouse. I wish all the prospective private players, startups and academicians the very best in their space journey. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Well, you were just listening in to the live address of ISRO Chairman K. Shivan. He was speaking on the decision of the government to reform the space sector, allowing private sector space activity. He said that the aim is to make India an important player in global space technology, and he also spoke at length about how it was the start of a process to unlock India's potential in the sector of space exploration. And now let's take a look. Our correspondent Amritpal Singh gets us this report from Leh about the situation there. Let's listen in.
India and China in diplomatic talks on Wednesday reaffirmed their commitment to the de-escalation and the disengagement process, which was agreed upon at the Corps Commanders level meet on the 6th of June, and then reiterated the commitment to the de-escalation process. They reaffirmed their commitment to maintaining peace, calm and tranquility along the line of actual control. And ahead of this disengagement process, the Army Chief visited forward locations along the line of actual control on Wednesday. He was in Leh for a 2-day review of the operational preparedness of the Army units. He interacted with formation commanders and took stock of the situation. He also interacted with troops and boosted their morale by giving them commendation cards of the Chief of Army Staff for exceptional devotion to duty. On Tuesday, he had met the soldiers who were injured in the violent incident on the 14th and 15th night, who were recovering at the military hospital at Leh, and boosted their morale. With cameraman Sumit Naudyal, Amritpal Singh, DD India, Leh.
And patients admitted in COVID-19 wards in Thiruvananthapuram Medical College will now be able to enjoy music and read books in a relaxed manner. In a bid to minimize stress among COVID-19 patients, new wards of the Medical College Hospital have been equipped with music systems, including a 24-hour FM channel and a library for reading books. The wards have 50 beds each. In the college, there were 2 incidents of COVID patients committing suicide, and a report was sought by the Health Minister regarding this. The new upgradation and renovation of the wards was undertaken after a report suggested that to minimize stress levels in COVID patients who are in isolation, and the Health Minister K.K. Shelja gave the approval. In the coming days, more wards will be upgraded with such facilities, and this will be replicated in other districts as well. Continuing the mission of repatriation of Indian citizens stranded overseas, INS Jalashwa, deployed under Operation Samudra Setu, will bring back more Indians from Bandar Abbas in Iran. The ship arrived off Bandar Abbas yesterday and embarkation of Indian nationals commenced today morning. And amidst a long debate whether to conduct exams or not, the Class 10 SSLC board exams began today in Karnataka. Over 8 lakh students are appearing for the exams amidst the pandemic. The state government has made elaborate arrangements, keeping in mind the safety of students. Karnataka Secondary Education Examination Board too has put in place various measures as per the standard operating procedure. The department claimed that it had already distributed 18 lakh masks at 2 per student. As per the release by KSEEB, 12,674 students, including children of migrants and those staying in hostels prior to the lockdown, had opted for change in exam centers. And for them, the department had issued revised admission tickets. Karnataka Education Minister Suresh Kumar visited one of the centers to take stock of the situation. Thermal scanners have been distributed to screen the temperatures of students appearing. The department is also using the services of scouts and guides at the centers. The health department has deployed a health assistant and an accredited social health activist at each center. As decided earlier, students coming from containment zones are being seated for the exam in a special room, and the invigilators in these rooms are provided with N95 masks. If a student tests positive, he or she will be allowed to appear for the supplementary exam as a first attempt candidate. And in Jammu and Kashmir's Sopore, an encounter is underway between terrorists and security forces in the Har Shiva area in North Kashmir. 2 to 3 terrorists are believed to be trapped here. 1 terrorist has been killed. India's battle against COVID-19 continues. The government is taking several steps for prevention, containment and management of the virus. In a significant ramping of testing facilities across the country, more than 2 lakh samples per day were tested till Wednesday. With 2,15,195 samples tested till Tuesday, the total number of samples tested thus far is 73,52,911. Private labs have also reached the highest per day sampling with this quantity. India now has 1,000 labs across the country, and this includes 730 in the government sector and 270 private labs. There are 557 real-time PCR-based testing labs present in the country, also 363 TUANET-based testing labs and 80 CBNAT-based labs are being used for diagnosis. The number of COVID-19 patients recovering every day is growing. A total of 2,58,684 patients have been cured. The recovery rate is 56.71% amongst COVID-19 patients. Presently, there are 1,83,022 active cases, and all are under active medical supervision. And let's now take a look at COVID-19 updates from across the world. Globally, over 94,05,000 people have tested positive for COVID-19, while over 4,82,000 have lost their lives so far. The United States continues to remain as the worst affected as far as numbers of confirmed cases are concerned, followed by Brazil and Russia. Over 23,80,000 people have tested positive across the US, while over 1,21,000 have died so far. Brazil has recorded over 53,000 deaths and over 11,88,000 confirmed cases, trading at second place just behind the US in both categories. Russia, meanwhile, has reported over 6,06,000 confirmed cases. And the World Health Organization expects the coronavirus cases to hit the 10 million by next week. Terming it a sober reminder, WHO Chief Tedros said that even as we continue R&D into vaccines and therapeutics, we have an urgent responsibility to do everything we can with the tools we have now to suppress transmission and save lives. Tedros has backed Saudi Arabia's decision to ban pilgrims from abroad from attending the annual Hajj pilgrimage to help limit the spread of the virus. On the spread in the Americas, WHO has issued a warning saying that the virus was still raging there and needed a very aggressive response from governments to suppress the spread. According to the WHO, many countries, including Britain, had fought hard and were making a steady exit from lockdown. WHO has expressed concern that many countries are now experiencing difficulties obtaining oxygen concentrators. He said that one of the most effective ways to save lives from COVID-19 is providing oxygen to patients who need it. WHO estimates that at a current rate of 1 million new cases a week, the world needs about 620,000 cubic meters of oxygen a day, which is nearly 88,000 large cylinders. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the news. News and updates continue on DD News and DD India. Namaskar.